All right, everyone, Falco here. I've get a lot of requests about the hideout, and to be honest, I didn't have a very good answer for a lot of people as to is it better to build it, or like what to make in there, all types of things like that. So I did a little math for you guys, and I kind of went in and figured out what the best stuff to make was, and kind of looked at whether or not it was worth to build the Bitcoin farm specifically. I didn't really look into the cost of upgrading the hideout. I think it's always worth it, especially for questing and things like that, and when you need like found and raid items or like specific things, it's really nice to have, and I think it's worth making in general. But as to what to make, we'll get into that right now. So if we go into the hideout, you've got all your stations here. You've got your workbench, your laboratory, intelligence center, your Bitcoin farm, water collection, the booze generator, your nutrition unit, med station, and I think that about covers it, other than like the scav case, which is kind of like gambling essentially. So in each of these, I went and I did a lot of math that covers them. I'll show you guys in a second. I just kind of want to get you to know what like my thinking was when I was doing this. So pretty much everything that you make has the inputs on the left here and then the outputs on the right. Now, the question is it worth it to use these inputs on the left here to then make something on the right? The answer in my mind is, well, if whatever's on the right can sell for more than what it costs on the left, then it's worth. So I went through and I used a website called, it's like EFT Loot Goblin. I'll show you guys right now, actually. So this is the website right here. It's pretty much called eft-loot.com. And it shows all of the items in raid, as well as the average price on the flea market and the price per slot. So if you were like trying to like loot and stuff, you would know like how valuable it is, the item per slot in your inventory, if you're on a scav or, you know, doing a pistol run or whatever. So you can essentially use this and just look up, you know, whatever you want. Let's say you wanted to look up like an air filter right here. Average price on the flea market around 15,000, but this was updated a day ago. So here's the big caveat to this, is that these prices are always fluctuating, and the flea market's always kind of dynamic, and it kind of levels itself out. And you can make a lot of money if you know where there's kind of a discrepancy between like the price and what you think it should be, or, you know, all kinds of things like that. So it's a free economy, you know, it's all good and dandy. So yeah, like I was saying, you've got all your inputs, and if the output's worth more, then it's worth. But another thing that comes into factor is when you're crafting, there's the crafting time right here. So if you want to maximize your per hour, then you kind of have to do a little bit of math and divide what your net profit would be by the average cost, like how many hours it takes to make that thing, if you're trying to like micromanage and see exactly how much money you can make out of the hideout. So let's get into the math for it right now. Why don't we? All right, so here I've got my big old scary looking spreadsheet. It's quite a bit of math, took a little bit of time. So essentially right here on the left side, I've got all the stations. Here's the workbench in gray, you got the med station, you've got the laboratory, the intelligence center, water collector, booze generator, all that. So then I listed all of the items right here, and you can see everything that is there. By the way, this will be available online. I'm gonna put a link in the description so you can access it. If you think something's wrong with it, let me know, or if like something needs to be updated or whatever, feel free to comment down below and let me know what you think about it. But anyways, I've got all the things right here. Then I took the cost of all of the parts that you would use to make the item right here under the flea cost. So if it took like, you know, for example, a Golnik, you need a kite, an eagle, and a hot gunpowder to make those, then I would put the cost that you could potentially sell those for on the flea market on right here on the left side on under flea cost. Then I have if you skip one over, there's the sell value over here, and that is what the sell value for the item that you crafted would go for. And then there's the net profit. So how much would you make off doing that if you weren't accounting for time right here, which is time in the middle? I know it's a little hard to see, but if you weren't accounting for time right here in the middle, then this is how much you would make if you were to sell the item. You know, the cost of selling the item minus the cost of the components to build it. Now, on next to that is the profit per hour, which is if you were to divide how much you netted by how many hours it takes to make that item, then you get your profit per hour. So some items like this one right here, Igolnik, you net a lot of money, right? 31,000 rubles every time you make this, but it takes 2.617 hours to make it. So you're only netting 11,000 an hour. Whereas if you go down here to like the Eagle gunpowder, you're actually making 23,000 per hour on that. But that only counts if you're actually actively in your hideout and collecting the item when it's made and flipping it and making another set right after. If you wait long, if you're like in raids or not doing this, then it might be more worth it just to make the Igolnik, because if you're gonna be waiting 2.5 hours before you even go into your hideout again, then you might as well make the higher profiting items. So that's for the workbench. If you notice, a lot of these things in here actually you lose money on. Some of them you lose a substantial amount, like crafting Hawk out of an OFZ shell. Don't do that. It's stupid. Even if you get 2 of them, you're losing 40,000 rubles, almost 50,000 rubles every single time you do that. So it doesn't make, some of these just don't make sense, but you know, they're crafting options for you if you want to. It's because the OFZ shells sell for like 100,000+ rubles on the flea market. So weird stuff that I wouldn't think actually happens. So if you go to the med station here, we've got, let's see, Propital. If you're crafting that, you're losing money. Now it's pretty close. This could average out, but in general, I'd say even if these prices, even if you got the ingredients for like a cheaper price, you still wouldn't make that much. So as of right now, I wouldn't do it. And then the purple injectors, even though those ones are actually going for a lot more on the flea market right now, I feel like they're undervalued, underpriced on the flea market, maybe because they're not even needed, even with the weight patch. But you lose like 33,000 rubles every time you craft those. So that's a loss. And pretty much the only thing in the med station that I saw that you made money for at the time that I looked at the prices was the Salewas, the piles of meds, and the IFAKs. And the piles of meds, you actually, because you only take like 30 minutes to craft those, you actually make the most money just flipping piles of meds if you're actively in your hideout. In the laboratory, the air filter for the gas mask, this one fluctuates, so it's not really worth going for this one. The ox bleach is the one that I found to be the most profitable in the lavatory. If you can get the components for around 30,000 a pop, you can then flip them for around 46 plus, depending on what the bleaches go for, and you make like 24k an hour doing that. The magazine case, you make a substantial amount on 39, about 40,000 profit from that, but you take like 4.8 hours to craft it. Speaking of these times, before I keep going, I made a section over here called micro and one called before you log off. So if you're actively in your hideout between every single raid, or if you're just sitting at your computer doing something else and you have your hideout open, you can, I highlighted all of the ones, all of the items that you could build that have the best profit per hour. And then I made another one called before log off, which is like, if you're gonna go to bed for 8 hours and you're not gonna collect it anyways until the morning when you wake up, then you wanna go for the ones that have the highest net profit right here. So before you log off, you'd wanna make some Eagle or some, what is this, M995. You'd want to, instead of crafting ox bleach, you'd want to make a magazine case and, you know, things like that. Let's go back to where we were. We were at the laboratory. So next is the intelligence center. You make like 34,000 for making the folders with intelligence, but it takes like, geez, like a whole day and a half to do it. So, I mean, you could always have one pumping out. It's not going to hurt you in the long run. You'll make money off of it, but I mean, it's almost negligible what you're really getting from that. The water collector is a little special because it takes 5.4-ish hours to make water. And the thing is it's not 1-to-1. So, you know, you'd think, Falco, where are you getting the water filters for 44,000? Well, I'm not. The thing is that each water filter, 64-ish points or 68-ish points is what makes one thing of the purified water, which sells for about 165-ish K rubles. So I divided the average cost, which was like around 70,000 for a water filter, by 64, 68%, whatever. And this is the number I got, 44,800 right here. So yeah, you're pretty much, you're netting 120,000 on the cost of 64% of a water filter, and you're making about 22K an hour doing that. The booze generator, you make about 48K profit if you were just to buy the components, the sugars and the purified water, and that's about 16,000 an hour. Over in the nutrition unit, the only things that were even worth flipping when I looked at it was the condensed milk and the packs of sugar. So for that, I mean, those were the only things that I would really consider doing. Other than that, I also thought of like, well, like for the Scav Fierce Hatchling Moonshine or whatever, you can get the ingredients like Alyankas for sugar, right? And then you can make sugar, and then you can also make the water over time. And if you're crafting the ingredients instead of buying them, like what's the return on investment there? And it actually came out to the fact that because you're waiting so long for the purified water to make, you're actually better off just selling your water, your purified water, every time it's made, and then just buying purified water every time you need water for the booze generator. Because this extra time right here for the water collection, 5.4, your booze, your Fierce Hatching Moonshine is going to be done in 3 hours. Then you're going to wait 2 hours for your next water, which doesn't make sense, which is why if you look right here, the if you were just like doing a moonshine machine is what I called it, your hourly income would be around 40,000, but if you were just buying the components, you'd make like 42,000. I mean, it's negligible. You could just, you know, craft the components and just always have a chain of Alyankas to sugars, filters to purified water into a hatchling moonshine. You could do that and it would be about the same, but if you were really trying to micro manage the hideout, you'd want to just buy the components and then sell the end product every single chance you get. Another question a lot of people ask me about is the Bitcoin farm right here. So I went on the wiki and I looked up pretty much the cost, and I looked into the math of it a little bit. So it would cost you around 15 million for the average price right now of graphics cards to get the graphics cards to fill the slots. Now, I'm not accounting for the things that you need to build the level 2, level 1, level 3 Bitcoin farm. I didn't care to look up all that. I'm just looking at the cost of the graphics cards, because let's be real, those are what matter. So it'd be about 15 million, and you'd make with all 50 slots filled, you'd make about a Bitcoin every 5 hours, and those would sell for 145,511 rubles to Therapist, which is like, because they're kind of like face value, that's about what they go for in the flea market because it equalizes. And that means that every hour you'd be making about 29, so pretty much like 30,000 rubles, which means if you were always there to collect your Bitcoins before you capped out, it would take about 21-ish days, 22-ish days to get that return on the investment of your Bitcoin farm. So, I mean, we're like maybe halfway through patch. I don't know. I think the next wipe is going to happen around probably June, July. So if you did it now, I'd say, yeah, it's probably worth. It's more worth in the beginning of wipes, for sure. So the faster you get the Bitcoin farm up and running, the better. Absolutely. So yeah, this is all the math that I came up with. I hope I gave a pretty good explanation for how I came up with these numbers. Like I said, I made this available online for you to look at. And if you have any comments, or if you think I got something wrong, or you think there's like some secret sauce that I'm not aware of, and you want to like post it down, put it in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. So yeah, and TLDR for anybody who just wants to know what the best stuff in the hideout to craft is, I'll tell you right now. You could do the SP6 or the Eagle or the M995. Those are all really good options. M995 is probably the best if you're going to log off for the night. Other than that, in the med station, you're going to want to just flip piles of meds. I mean, that's pretty much the most profit that I saw. In the laboratory, if you're on top of your hideout every single raid looking at it, ox bleach flipping is really good. Other than that, if you're going to go log off for the night, magazine case is the best. The folder for real intelligence, you make about 35-ish K every time you do that, so worth. Get your purified waters, flip them. Your Fierce Hatching Moonshine, make them, you make a profit. Condensed milks and packs of sugars, you can make 4 in the nutrition unit. And then the Bitcoin farm, you take about 21.5-ish days for just to return on the cost of your graphics cards. So I hope you guys liked the video. Let me know what you thought. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment down below, and stop by the stream if you want to say what's up, or if you have some questions. I'm streaming Monday through Thursday usually, but because of issues that we're all aware of that are going on in the world right now, I'll probably be streaming a little bit more recently. Until next time, boys, I'll see you around.